Hey, it's Anthony with Land Title. I came to bring you your market update for Boulder County, and so let's just dive right into it. I think right here we can really see what's going on in October, and October was a very transitional month last year, and this year we have really not seen as much of a change from that buyer side demand, right? So normally in Q4 we do see things tend to slow down. We tend to see inventory start to come down like it is right now, but that is largely due to supply side changes, not buyer changes. So this is actually a really good sign for the market right now. So if we dive into this a little bit, take a look at what we're seeing on the supply side. We are seeing year over year, we're down about 13% in active units of inventory. That's not a lot, but here we are seeing that fall shift. If you look at the month over month numbers, they're all very down, right? And that's okay because it just means that sellers are not bringing things to market. It's generally a slower fourth quarter for sellers. But if we get over into the under contract and all of those numbers, you could really see where things were really flat from September to October, which is a good sign for Q4 going into real estate this year. Now, what does that mean for everybody out there? What that means is we have 3 months of inventory on the market. Not all markets are created equal. Look at Louisville. 2 months of inventory. It's still a seller's market in Louisville, where maybe it's not going to feel like that if you're in Superior or Boulder, some of the markets that are much more close to balance. So that being said, even though we have less inventory on the market than we had last year, it actually is going to feel like it's a less competitive environment for your sellers. So buyers, Q4 is your time. You should really get out there and take advantage of this market because with the higher interest rates and everything else that's going on, Q4 is actually going to be a remarkable time for buyers to get out and buy homes. You can see right here, if you look at the days in MLS, way longer days in MLS, right? It always tends to trend up this time of year. October was a lot of stuff that maybe had been sitting on the market started to come off. So 50 days on average in MLS. Obviously, all the markets are very different. Niwot was only 20, but not very many homes sold in Niwot. Louisville, with that lower supply of inventory, obviously was a little bit faster paced market. But you can really see that we're going to trend up towards the fourth quarter, which we always generally do. So this is all normal behavior, but it is definitely slowing down if you're a seller, right? And less competition if you're a buyer. Now, what does this really mean if we look at it by price point? This is really where I think we can kind of tell some of the story of what's happening. You know, year to date, we're down about 20% in sales of the 3+ million mark. So the luxury, the super high end is slowing down a little bit now. That really shouldn't surprise anyone. We had a really good beginning to the year, but as kind of things have slowed down, cost of money has made that more difficult to purchase. You can really feel that in the marketplace. Now, the craziest part about Boulder County is the 2 to 2.5 million market is up 16-17% in total sales this year, which is kind of the anomaly, right? Because a lot of people have come to Boulder County and seem to be parking capital here, which is always a good decision. Now, the bulk of the market that's been hit by this cost of money this year is that 1 to 2 million range. So that's where we've seen the bulk of the decrease in sales. So there's a lot of pressure on that part of the market. And if you get down into the lower part of the market, it really feels constrained more by the supply of inventory out there. And you can see it here if you look at the month supply of inventory and days on market by price range. So if you look at it, under 800,000, we still have a really competitive seller's market, right? 2 months of inventory, you know, it doesn't seem like things are moving fast, right? And if you get up into the higher price points, especially, you know, once you get over that 1.5 million mark, we're in a balanced market, and then even into a buyer's market, come to the luxury side. So those more expensive parts of the market are slowing down. There's a lot of inventory. You could really take advantage of getting some good deals right now if you could trade up if you could, or you know, keep your property as a rental and buy another one. You might be able to find some really good deals in Q4, and you can see what's happening through this in the marketplace, right? Now, if we look at our total sold analysis, this is just what's going on year to date. We're only at minus 14.46% from this time last year. That's total year-to-date numbers, and I think that's a good sign, right? We're going to pick up a little bit by the end of the year because the pace of this quarter is much better than it was last year, right? Last year, it felt like things just shriveled up to nothing. Well, you're not going to see that quite as fast this year. You can see the October numbers are much more like September, and it wasn't like that cliff we saw a year ago. So this is a really good sign for real estate, very healthy Q4 going into this market. Now, if we look at it by average sales price, you can see, you know, year over year, I don't necessarily like that figure a ton, but you can see 7% up year over year. It bounces around quite a bit in Boulder County, so that's tough. I like the trailing 12-month number. That's that TTM percentage change. And you can see that, you know, values are relatively flat across Boulder County for the last year. And that's a good sign, right? I mean, that just shows some stability in the marketplace. You got to discount places like Niwot that show minus 12% because they just don't have a lot of sales, and we don't have enough sales to kind of help the average. You just have some outliers that really throw those numbers off. But other than that, I mean, look at Boulder County. It's showing minus 1%, Erie 0.3% down, Longmont 2% up, right? We're just seeing some stability back in the marketplace, and I think that's a really healthy sign. Now, sold units, I like this slide a lot because it's easy to tell where we were struggling and where we've done really well. You know, we had a really strong beginning of the year last year. So that's why all the way through June, we saw these, not quite hitting those sales numbers, those total sold units, and we had a really slow fourth quarter. So you could assume that we should be able to at least perform equally or outperform where we were last year. So that's where we're going to make up some of those year-to-date numbers. But you can see where the sales are taking place, right? Boulder has slowed down a little bit faster than most of the rest of the county. Places like Erie and Niwot and even Louisville are only down about 10% in sales. So with some of these submarkets doing a little bit better than maybe some of those bigger hubs like Longmont or Boulder. Now, last one I wanted to talk about is our percentage sold price to list price. Now, this one is showing 99% list to sale price. If you look at that number, that seems really good, right? Now, it's a little misleading because, well, it doesn't take into account price drops, and it doesn't take into account, those concessions that a lot of sellers are giving. So in that sense of the word, I think you really need to have a bigger, more in-depth conversation when you're using this slide with clients, because 99% sounds great, but it's 99% of whatever that price was at the time in which it goes under contract, right? So that's a tough one. If there's price reductions, they definitely don't factor into this. And a lot of concessions are coming out at, 1% of the sales price, right? So, or maybe more, 2% of the sales price. So that really notches this down more to like a 97% range. And 40+% of our deals coming into land title right now have concessions. So I think it's a good caveat to put in here and really, help articulate this slide a little bit better. It may misrepresent kind of what's happening a little bit here. So either way, I'm Anthony at Land Title. If you have any other questions, you need any local markets, please reach out to me. I'm always here to help. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel to get more content. Talk to you later.